Put on a little music.
Nice.
Yeah, I like this beat.
Yeah.
It's actually it's an instrumental of a mashup that this DJ did. He took who did he take? Andre 3000, and yeah, he took some lyric. Well, he took Andre 3000's lyrics from one song, and the lyrics from J. Cole on this song, and put them together.
Cool.
So I loved it. So then I wrote the guy, and I'm like, man, do you have it without the words? So
It's really good.
he sold it to me. 25 bucks. And then he released it on YouTube. But you know.
Really?
Yeah, but you know, it's an equal energy exchange.
Yeah.
And I've sent him a lot of business because people say, who did this? Where do I find it?
Very cool.
So, you know, gotta spread the abundance. Oh, here, let me
Wait, I'm trying to share it.
let me all right, hang on. Let's see here. I'm gonna tag you.
Okay, perfect.
That'll make it easier. I'll just take a second. By the time we're done, we got 28 people in the house, so we'll just wait for a few more people and I'll tag you.
Hi, Morgan.
Hi, Morgan. I was thinking of you the last few days. I don't know. There's like, I'm like,
You think of who?
I was thinking of you, Morgan, the last few days, just wondering how you've been. How to connect with you.
Powers of Love. And then Heather, Grace Powers, and Jason. So I tagged you on all 3 pages.
Okay, there we go.
All right. You turn my volume down. All right. Kill the music. Powers of Love are in the house. Here, let's get their little text up here. Oh, the powers of love.
There's a camera right there.
So what's happening, people? What's going on in sunny California?
It's not so sunny right
It's
now.
not
It's actually
sunny.
nice. Kind of, maybe.
We have kind of fabricated rain. We've had really, really weird weather, actually. We woke up on Thanksgiving Day with really high winds and no power, which was interesting. We've had just,
I like to say we had no electricity because we
all
still had power.
Yeah, it's
we
true.
just didn't have electricity.
Well, you'd have to have power. Your name is Powers.
Yeah.
You're like, we didn't have
That
power.
would be tragic.
That was weird.
Well, that doesn't surprise me that you had that happened on, what was it, Thanksgiving?
That was Thanksgiving. Yeah, we were not feeling well. We've been under the weather because we were trying to do this broadcast with you for a while now. So, thanks for your flexibility and all that. But yeah, it's been a little wonky out here weather-wise. Been kind of manufactured but you know what? As I said to Heather, the plants don't know the difference. They love their water. They're drinking it up. I think.
I think, yeah.
I don't know.
Who
They're
knows?
not speaking to me.
Yeah.
Personally.
Well, it doesn't surprise me because that was a pretty, I mean, everyone's been talking about it since the summer, the great burn, the great Cali fire that was this summer, and then, well, you would have September, October, November. That just kind of, we kept going into it, and then there was that corridor, right? There was a corridor. What was it? October 25th through November the 8th. Was an eclipse corridor that cleaned a lot of people, cleaned a lot of our clocks out. And then there was the 11th through the 21st, which I think was another deal. And I think that, what was it? Thanksgiving. The 22nd, November 22nd, 2022, right?
Yeah. Yep.
But I mean, energetically, it's just been, I don't want to say a bloodbath. It's been like a spiritual purification, burning. Yeah. And then we come into December and it's already booming. I don't know how y'all are feeling. And a lot of people, to your point too, a lot of people, myself included, I had a sinus infection with fevers and stuff, but it, obvious to me and to a lot of people I talked to that had some things go down with their bodies, they, a lot of the people I talked to said that they approached it strictly from a energetic or spiritual perspective and got through it. And some of the people, a couple of people I talked to had some serious stuff going down.
Yeah, that's super aligned, I think, with maybe what we've been feeling. It's been nonstop, that's for sure. And the guidance has been so clear, like even related to the body and what the body needs just to kind of heal from different aspects, getting quieter inside, and allowing like some of the stuff to come up and come out, even in our own relationship. It's kind of like giving space and not trying to work things out is almost bringing it up, because it's like it just is moving. Everything's just moving through us, right? So it's getting easier to see it and to not get so stuck in it. Know that the process it's purifying us.
Yeah.
We're not really,
Yeah. Everyone was affected. Even like I think about 5 or 6 days ago, I saw Judith Kuzel. She's, I've got the flu. I mean, it was just everywhere.
Yeah, totally.
And then every
people that don't get sick.
Yeah, every single couple I've talked to, you know, whether I talk to one of them or they're both on together, it's, you know, and obviously if it's been the most intense for the individuals, then why would any connection be different, right? And so a lot of, you know, for all that it's been, a lot of really powerful gains I think are occurring. We've I think collectively really done a hell of a job. Just hasn't
kind of
been
hard to know sometimes, right? You know your own kind of local universe, and you do your best to tip your toe into the collective and go, what's going on out there? And that's where you are, man. You're in these conversations, so it's always interesting to talk to you, Todd, because you are, you know, getting a pulse of the collective more so than some. But it's like we only know what we know in our little planet over here.
Yeah, if I'm looking down, don't take it personally. We can't see you. It's like the screen is covering up your face, and
We've already established that. That's not going to happen.
I keep like looking into. I'm just looking at us.
Let's see. Does that help?
That's better.
Oh, there
That's
you
so
are.
much better. Oh
I
my
didn't.
gosh.
I thought that was just a local thing. I didn't know that was going to actually
That's
show.
cool.
All right, I'll just put it like that.
Does that show on the broadcast too? We are
well,
a holy trinity. We are.
That's perfect.
Let me
That
see.
makes it easier.
Well,
You know,
if you're seeing it, I think it will. Let's see. Maybe not. Oh yeah, it does. How weird.
Nice.
Okay, you learn something every day.
That's fun.
Nice. Yay. Necessity is the mother of invention. Oh, yeah, it just definitely feels like so many beautiful things out of really uncomfortable things is happening.
That's a great summation. That's a perfect one.
Well, you know, and I think what Heather might be alluding to, about just before around her birthday in June, we had a big party all planned for her, and that day she got into a really bad accident, 4-car accident that totaled her car, put her in the emergency room, taken by an ambulance, and you know, gratefully she's alive and well, and you know, it's needed some TLC, some adjustments, some care, but it's been a process of definitely deepening. She's 6 months without her car, and deepening in how we're navigating, practically just financially, how we're navigating it emotionally, how it's calling. You know, Heather's been in her unique process with it, and how it affects us and our dynamic and trust and all that, and it's been quite a half a year.
It's incredible. Do you notice like the things that are happening that are kind of like the catalyst for new expansion? It's almost like you can feel it coming into it. Like for me, right before this accident, I had all kinds of synchronicity that it was almost like, okay, trust what you're about to go through, kind of a thing.
Right.
And this whole situation has been just like, keep trusting, keep letting go, surrender and warrior up. Where do I need to warrior up? Where am I not taking my, you know, responsibility for my actions, my thoughts, and, you know, doing what I need to do, but in the surrender. It's crazy balance that we're trying to strike, right? Yeah.
The way you put it earlier. I'm going to have to write that down. Now this happened what, in June?
June 24th. Yeah, it was
June
2 days after my
24th.
birthday. And
Your birthday's
so
6/22/2022. These numbers are freaky.
totally. Yeah.
And then, like what you said too about the energy as it's coming in these last few months, like maybe even we could say since June, how you do feel it coming in. You know, I mean, over these months, there'd be times Morgan and I would talk about it because we could feel it coming in, and neither one of us might say anything about it, and as we would go through it over and over, we would say, you know, if we feel it coming in, we probably shouldn't talk, you know, or we should be alone. Not to not talk to each other, but
Yeah.
like what you were saying earlier about the solitude and just being able to sit with it. And I think one of the things that's kind of happened as we've gotten into December, and I feel like it's not just us. I mean, your vibration feels very, you know, in that space, and but that it's not the sting doesn't last as long with these things, regardless of what's coming and how it comes in. You know, individually, with a relationship, with whatever, it doesn't last. It doesn't stick anymore, and that's a good sign.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So true. Yeah.
That's a great point. You know, I just feel like we're definitely, you know, as a unit at a threshold. You know, again, I mean, if you remember this time last year, I was in the hospital nearly exiting this plane.
That's right.
And it was quite a death, rebirth, resurrection cycle there, and feel like, you know, cycles within cycles, right? So we're here at another opportunity to revisit some of the things that were being called to die, and going, okay, you know, let's go deeper. And
Totally.
you know, winter's here, the time of letting go of what needs to be let go of, and be okay with the leaves falling.
The things that die, these identities that
Yes.
now.
Yes.
So just to like cover this real quick, I mean, this is powerful, because one thing about y'all, we've been doing shows since I think 2018, and you've always been open. You always you show up, and you know, like all of us, sometimes you don't want to, whatever, but you guys have always been, you know, as transparent as any of us can be in this
Thank you.
transition we're going through.
Yeah, it's our salvation.
So you go into, Morgan and I were just talking about December 21st, 2012 to December 21st, 2021. There was a lot said about that period of time, and I guess it would even come into effect this month too, really, if you think about it, because that'd be, and so we get to the end of last year, and you're in the hospital, and you have the experience that you have. I remember it now. Thank you for reminding me. Which must have been massive for y'all on a relationship level, obviously. And then also this thing that happens on the 24th of June this year. So you kind of had like, both had a go. The other was, like Morgan always says, first you observe it and then you experience it, or you experience it, then you observe it. So you both actually, you know, carried that, and now you've had 6 months of, you know, going through that. That's powerful. Has it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably a dumb question, but has it brought you closer? Has it changed the dynamics of the way you communicate? Is it, you know, I don't know how to really set that question up.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, that's rich soil there, brother. I mean, that's you know, we've definitely through, you know, if you want to go this year or so of just going through crisis of health, crisis of finances, crisis of these things, I can tell you the walls of the ship have been shaking. You know, Captain, she can't take anymore. Like there's this we're being fitted, as we know, we often say we're being fitted for our destiny, but to be like, it's helped us each. I mean, this year has been a year of really digging individually for each of us and uprooting, you know, and not so entrained and enmeshed in what the couple is doing, but more so like, okay, we got to dig deeper and digging. This has been a year of really digging deeper into our unique offerings to men and women.
Mm-hmm.
This year I started a men's circle, and just really Heather's been working with women and really getting them embodied in their feminine form. And the relationship has taken, communication has been masterclass this year. How do we communicate in the dis-ease, the discomfort that we've had?
Yeah, that is this critical. I think probably, I don't know, halfway through the year, we probably realized, and it took a different commitment level to go. If we don't learn how to communicate through these things, that's where it's going to break. If you can communicate with each other, and we're only as sick as our secrets, if we can bring everything to the table, you can work through anything, And I think what's interesting is the dynamic of the love shifts and changes. It's like new facets of love are being exposed, while false facets of maybe projection are dying. And to see where, I think even related to the body, going deeper at a soul communion level, which you guys know, because that's where your physical separation, I'm sure, has heightened your soul connection deeper than it even was before, I would imagine. But just realizing that sometimes the healing that's happening in generations of, the masculine and feminine dynamics, it's like you have to go down through those roots to learn how to really communicate through generations of bullshit that we've all been programmed with.
Yeah, I think, and mostly that would be just out of habit and pattern and not knowing anything. I mean, if we came out of a paradigm, which we have, that was the communication. There was only one: codependence.
Yes.
I mean, there was no way to communicate. But you brought up the thing about projection too. There's a lot of things that have been falling away. Especially these last 2-3 months, and you don't see the projection. I don't see it. The projection really got loud, right? I mean, and then it became obvious that projection was basically the energy showing itself, just like in other ways. But it seems like that's going away. We're not having to experience projection to get the message that's coming in, basically, right?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean,
did I strike a?
I don't know. Like
had a different experience.
I've been dealing with projection first thing this morning. I'm talking
about okay.
Like,
well,
Lord in heaven, I'm tired
not with
of this.
us.
Not us personally. Just the world of social media and the holographic matrix that we live in, and where it's we don't need to really get too deep into the fake avatars and the fun little cartoon images that people are putting out right now. But it became like, people, to the pure, all things are pure. To the innocent, things are innocent. But when we project our beliefs and our opinions about what we're seeing out there in the world, about what another is, I'm still seeing that, experiencing that this morning. And it's a little tender, It's been a season of 3 years of feeling canceled, cut out, rejected, told that you're not good, you're not this, and you're dangerous, and because you don't wear a mask or you don't get the jab or whatever's going on, where you're just going, I'm not buying into the narrative, and I'm choosing to see through the narrative, but not get into what anybody else needs to do. But when you feel that in your own field, it's a little tender right now. So that's my truth in this now moment.
Yeah, man. The truth will set us free. Yeah, and when I got back over here after the whole Soulogy Fest experience, I noticed, and this would have been, I'd say 80 shows back, 90 shows back, so a few weeks. But I noticed there was something different going on. Now this would be September, late September going into October. People were showing up and they were doing what you just did. They were just being totally open and honest. And again, people come on, they have these abilities and skills and different things, but I was just seeing, and I kept talking about this on the show, like they just were, I'd never seen them more into their human,
Yes.
and it was like a humility with that.
Yes.
There was, Yeah, I started seeing that, and so we got into it about 6 weeks or so. I didn't sleep last night. I had lucid dreams all night, so I'm fluttering over here. But it came on. I'd say about 5 weeks ago, a lady came on, and we were talking about judgment, and then she said, what compassion is, and I said, what? She says, there's no judgment. And it just struck me. It struck me not just in that moment for me, but what I'd been seeing in the field or with the show, how things were moving. And to me, it feels like that's lessening. And for me, like personally, I try to go, well, because everything's loud now. You know when you're in judgment or someone's judging you, because it's really one and the same thing.
Exactly.
The process to bring equilibrium's the same. But anyway...
that's so true. I love that you said that, because it's the reality of both the trigger and the response, or what we feel. It's the same thing, and that's hard. I was reading something about forgiveness, or listening to Aaron advocate about something about forgiveness today, and I love how he said it. If we're still in a place where we have to forgive somebody for something that you did to me,
right,
it's not forgiveness. It's like forgiveness, that inner awakening of the Christ, whatever we want to call that. It's that the feeling of understanding, like being able, they don't know what they're doing. And I think that's the process that's happening. And even if you feel it, just being with it until it dissolves, because it does dissolve. And I think our bodies have recorded so much that not trying to fix it, not trying to push it away, is the medicine that we need. It's like you sit with it until it dissolves, and forgiveness, there's nothing else to do but forgive it. It just is.
I love how you said that, though, the compassion. There's no judgment in compassion.
Yeah.
When, especially in this climate that we're in, and I was talking to Heather about this morning with what we've been dealing with. It's like, if you've got a varying opinion or a belief or something that you feel passionate that you need to post on somebody's thing or get in there and just push your opinion, you're not coming from compassion. And if you're truly compassionate and you really care for the person, then maybe send them a message or send them something else. But the way people are communicating their opinions and judgments and beliefs upon another is dangerous and hurtful. And we've been in a season of divide and conquer, and the lines continue, whatever you choose to believe. And if we're truly coming from love and compassion, it's going to dictate how we communicate. And that's the thing that we're constantly doing, is like, if we're judging what the other has done to us, we get to choose at that point. Are we going to choose to communicate with compassion or judgment? And because we all see and know in part, this is a moving target. I say I hold loosely to all concepts, beliefs, and structures, because what you see is from where you believe, and your beliefs change. You're not the belief. You are the believer choosing to believe whatever belief you captured and said, I'll take some of that. And then and I'll feed that and nurture that and say, that's my belief. And it's not your belief. Nobody has any programs of beliefs that are theirs originally. We're all collectively taking a bunch of potpourri of beliefs and structures and concepts that we choose to resonate at one point, and then maybe 5 years, 2 years, 2 months, the day next, you're going to change. And so arguing over these beliefs and structures and concepts of what we think we see is just a fool's game to me.
Well, obviously, it hasn't worked for the last 12,000 years. But, and of course, it's all polarity.
Yeah.
Every timeline, every dimension's polarity, but this one happens to be a dualistic polarity that we're coming out of, so massive distortion. So it's always about the polarities, and I think at the heart of the polarities, obviously, is going to be the masculine and the feminine. I think that's why these couples, I'm taking on a newer and better and whatever you want to call it, perspective of these couples, because it's fucking tough work. And it's not just on a personal level. But anyway, to my point is, I look at that, and obviously, like you do, Morgan and I talk a lot, a lot of shop, you might say. But it's the chicken and the egg.
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't matter who starts what. If a judgment comes at me, it's my choice from that point, just like you said. And I think we've gotten to a point where our frequencies, our vibrations are becoming acclimated with the fact that we can literally turn the page and be born again in that moment, you know. But somebody just put up a comment, I think it was Yolanda Marie. She said, where is it? They are fighting the shift. Those frequencies are trying to leave, and it feels so weird to people. You know, I think a lot of what we've gone through this year, in these last few months, it's the energy. It's nothing personal. It's nobody's fault. And that's really what Jason, you know, to me, it's what you're saying is, you know, it's, you know, we call ourselves empaths because we can feel other people, right? But can we really feel them? I mean, this is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Because they're just like you and me. We've all been subjected to the same bullshit. And now we're coming out of it. But,
it's so true.
but
I love that the balance of, you know, I think we're getting better at really being in the opposite of, or the middle point, the tension of the polarities, you know, because it's almost like the stretching to either side, the ability to just be with it. It just literally has the effect of dissolving whatever the polarity is. And it's so easy to, you know, resort back to without knowing that if I'm upset by that, then I'm still victimized myself. I'm still in that thinking and not realizing, because I'm judging them for judging me. And it's like, and just being able to sit in the middle of that, physiologically speaking. I mean, I think that's what's really amazing about this, that we're all feeling the change in our bodies and being able to listen to the body, you know, where's the body still holding on to the tension of the things that I am resisting. And I just getting up in the quiet in the morning, I think that's what I'm feeling more than anything, is that my body's letting go. I can feel the places where just there's a relaxation where there wasn't before. So much wisdom in our bodies. It's incredible.
it is the universe.
It is.
It's all in there.
Yeah.
And I think that's why you saw a lot of people end of November getting sick and having physical, you know, like I know one of my friends, her leg went out, and I mean, people going to the hospital. I think it's arguable that this was the light blasting through the body, deep diving, and having physical implications.
I agree. Yeah. It's funny because
I'm tired. I'm weary, man. Like I literally, like I just, again, I'm just going to speak the truth. Like coming out of that trial last year nearly took me out, and to be sick again, it's just like I got, you know, and what came out here in this local area, you know, a lot of people locally, you know, there's so much poison in the skies and our oceans and our various things in the 5G. There's like, you know, it just becomes like, okay, what can I do? So it drives that contrast serves us. Contrast serves us every time. And so it drove me into researching gut health, you know, the microbiome of what we do. And 70 to 80% of our immune system is about what's going on in our gut. And so it led me to Dr. Jeffrey West and his work in the world and what he's doing with the archaea and probiotics and what's going on, like what we can do to protect, to preserve, to nurture when we're in dis-ease of any kind. You know, it's all this stuff, conflict, the way we're moving through all this stuff is going to serve us and agitate us to a perfect, you know, there's a law of harmony through conflict. Like we move through this when the agitation is happening, when the little kernel of sand is in the oyster and it's getting agitated and produces the pearl, right? That part of us, how we deal with the agitation, how we deal with the conflict is part of our process. And I'm grateful for, you know, this time of going, look, I'm not okay with being this way, feeling in my body, feeling the congestion. I'm not okay with that. So I'm not going to just sit and bitch and moan about it. I'm gonna get diligent and research and get passionate about finding solutions for this. And And that's where we're at collectively, right? We're figuring out this discontent that we're feeling in our body, emotional, physical, spiritual bodies as a planetary consciousness is calling for us to find solutions that are really going to call us. And we're still in the process. We're in that beautiful purification, and where we go, only we can imagine.
Yeah. Well said. And where it used to be and always is an individual thing. It's always me and the, but where it used to be me and the universe, now it's me and my body.
Yeah.
That's what, that's been a strong thing. People talking about the body, I'd say going back about 2 years on the show. But, yeah. But, and I'm over here during this time since the summer, for most of the time, except when I went on my little excursions. And I'm here with Ty Hudnall, who's got this whole sound healing thing, right? So he's got this one room with 9 gongs, plus he's a keyboardist, flute player, and all that stuff. But he one of the things he does is he'll have someone come in, and through just an interaction, they will create a music profile of some sort. So I've spent some time with him, observing, and one of the things he showed me, which was really powerful, and it goes to what you were talking about. When you listen to a beautiful song, and people come in and they want to get a beautiful song in this thing that he does for them, he was explaining to me that that's not what they get. What they get is this discordant type of thing, and then into a more symmetrical beauty type of flow back to. So to your point, and he says this a lot too, because he's also an esoteric astrologer, that the tension is part of it, but we've got this 12,000 year run in this inverted matrix that we've come out of, where all we knew was that codependent type of communication or way. So there's that judgment in there and all that. We're judging the tension, right? And I think
so true.
Yeah.
But I think this is where we're coming to now. And I think, Jason, you said it. It comes at you. The judgment comes at you at that point, because the judgment comes in many forms. It could be even physical harm or whatever. But the judgment comes at you, our choice, because it starts with our thoughts. So the judgment comes at me. I have a choice. I can either tit for tat, or I can say chicken and the egg. I'm not playing that game anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hear that, and I hear it. And I mean, and the thing is some of the process that we've been in this past, I would say 6 months more so. We've been working with this amazing man. We're going to have a podcast soon. Yeah. He wrote a book called The Inner Alignment Method, the IM. Right, the inner alignment method. And it's really ultimately cultivating your ultimate relationship with yourself,
your child
inside, and your true adult. So you're presencing, because we're all working through, our traumas. We have traumas. The one trauma, as the Course in Miracles talks about, there's only one problem, and that's the belief in separation. Right. We believe we're separate from God. We believe we're separate from Source, the all that is. Right, and so that's the one trauma that we're all dealing with, whether we're conscious of it or not. But then the ways those traumas enact from our childhood, and being able to go, look, I have patterns of engaging life based on things that's happened. And so we can bypass and go, I shouldn't be thinking and feeling these things. And I'm going to be honest with you, like I'm dealing with the traumas of feeling rejected, deflected, and I'm not free of the good or bad opinion of others right now. And that's okay.
That's right. That's okay.
I'm cultivating that tenderness. Like I was telling her this morning, like when we see a cancer victim or somebody that's gone through some kind of major accident in their life and they're recovering, we can see it physically, but we can't see what's going on emotionally necessarily or mentally with everybody on the planet.
Yeah.
And we're healing, we're recovering. I'm healing. I'm in a recovery process. I'm not good. I can't say today I'm free of the good or bad opinion of another. I'm tender right now. I need some TLC.
Yeah.
I need to feel that I'm loved and lovable. I wear a band on my band that says I am enough, because I have the disease, the pandemic of not enoughness. I don't feel enough comparative. That's the ego dance. I'm less than or greater than. And so as we share in all these times when we ever sat with you, like, I believe that if we open up and go, boom,
Yes.
here I am, here you are, here we are,
Mm-hmm.
and we are in a process of coming back home
Mm.
to the heart of God, to the heart of the love itself, and that's a process. That's
Mhm.
a cultivation. That's a discipline. That's a discipline that we have to do to cultivate, because if I go off, I can get off the beam in a moment.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If I'm not cultivating an inner GPS, that, there's one of my favorite songs. Where was it? What was that song we're listening to?
Which one?
It's just
I wanna
no.
be.
I'm just, God is my refuge. God is my home,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the only. There's no person. Heather can't fill this hole.
Yes.
There's nothing that this codependencies we're talking about. We're coming into. Only the peace of my heart, the peace of the heart of God can fill this.
Yes.
And whatever that means to you, listener, who's listening, this isn't a theological Father God in the sky. This is like the essence of what I'm talking about. Like,
Yeah.
so.
It was beautiful.
Yeah. Dude.
I think that the place where it comes down to relationship, back to, kind of the deeper you get into the relationship aspect, the more you realize it's not about the relationship. It never was, it never will be. And that by allowing those aspects of the relationship that are still holding boundaries, still have, where we react and from our traumas, from our wounds, that it's pushing us back inward to be able to really hear that little child inside of us. At times, if we're trying to figure things out between us, it's usually two little adults that are protecting our little children.
Mhm.
Trying to cope and trying to keep, we run from pain and we run towards pleasure, which is, we've all been in that space. We don't like to feel those painful parts of us that remind us of what we didn't receive or received that we didn't deserve as a child, when our parents were doing the best that they could. And it's like the beautiful way that we are matched with our partners that evoke those deepest wounds inside of us, and learning how to not recoil from what's coming up in the pain. And it's definitely an art form to learn how to sit alone together, because it's like the aloneness is expanding, but in that aloneness there is compassion, there is camaraderie, we are a team, we are allies in bringing these aspects up. And like you said earlier, I just so deeply respect any couple that's really allowing this process to keep unfolding in the relationship and not running.
Well, yeah, here. Because I've known a lot of them that have split. Some have come back, some have split again, some have come back. But I will say this, for all the, I feel a little off with it because, Morgan's not sitting right here, but any of them that, with all the talk of the twin flame and divine this and that and whatever, all the fluffy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was saying earlier. For myself, for Morgan, for y'all, for any couple. And I'm not taking anything away from the individuals. There's certain templates that are being carried by certain people in the world. Some carry Christ consciousness, some carry whatever. But any of them, I think it speaks to the depth of the potential of the Trinity energy. Because ultimately, they carry an energetic baby at all times that's a force in its own. And I think we just got to give them a respect. I'm not saying that because I'm in a relationship. I'm not saying anything. But it's we talk about this, obviously. And, and of course we get couples on here, and I don't, I feel like, we're all tender. It's a tender thing, and I said, it'll be nice the day when we can really start to have these conversations. I don't think today's the day. And she'll say, it's going to be a while, because it's been a painful expansion. It's been, and you're right. It's driven us to our individuality and really self-examination. And our messenger is our partner. And like you said, but you get to this point, which I think you're exuding and you're explaining, the both of you, that you're looking at it differently now. It's not, why did you say that? It's, what is that? What's the program?
Totally.
Yeah. And maybe you have to do that by yourself, and maybe you have the conversation, but it's definitely, I remember when I woke up 10 years ago or whatever, and one of the things they said is you cannot miss a step on the soul highway. No one gets to do a leapfrog.
Shortcuts.
Right.
There's no hacks.
Yeah.
There's no hacks to this journey.
Yeah.
That's so well said, Todd. I mean, and that's really what I want to communicate, is that we're cultivating the inner witness in a way that's a little different than the inner witness that says, oh, I know all the, I'm listening to the
Theories.
the theories, the insights, the downloads, sideloads, all these, the knowledge, the Gnosticism, or whatever, the seers, or whatever you can see. Like, ultimately, what we're cultivating, and now is that what is called the true adult, is to go, it totally makes sense what you're feeling. I don't need to fix
Yes.
you. I don't know shit, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The magical child is what needs to be presenced, and go and look, this child just needs to be presenced. This is the pure innocent, the Christed one, the golden child. The golden child needs to be presenced and constantly presenced. Check in. We're learning to check in. Like, where am I at right now? Because am I in my coping little child mechanism? Am I reactive or am I really that true adult that's just going, I'm just witnessing what you're feeling here. And what you feel matters right now. And just to be present inside. And so we're cultivating that internally, individually. And the more we can do that, the fine ways that we do that with each other individually, then we can do that better for each other. And I don't need to fix Heather when she's upset. I don't need to bring all these solutions to her. She just wants to be heard, and go, you know what, your feelings are heard. And it makes sense that you feel that.
Yeah, totally. I think that's really the space that's growing inside. I mean, he has been such Ron. His name is Ron Levy. We'll share his information, but the work that he has, he wouldn't even call it work. He would say, it's not my work. I just work here and I don't know anything. And I think that's probably the most valuable thing that he's given us, is that he's allowed us to take turns sitting on his couch, learning how to have a conversation with our little child, and then change and allow the true adult part of us that it doesn't know anything, it doesn't need to know anything, but it's always there to support. And even just, the analogy that he always talks about, like, sometimes our little child just needs to throw a tantrum and get some energy out and be in its room and just have the feels. And a true adult, a true parent, knows that it'll just run its course and invite you, when you're ready to come be with us, that's okay. We'll be here waiting, and we're not moved by your tantrum. And learning just that, a lot of us did not have that model growing up. And just to have that safety inside of ourselves, as we're learning that, like Jason said, it's like we're learning how to hold that kind of space with each other and not be moved by or alarmed by the emotions that are coming up, because they're just feelings.
Right.
They're important, they're valuable, they're valid, but they're just feelings that are needing to move through.
Volcanoes need to erupt sometimes.
Right.
They just do.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, I'm reflecting as I'm listening to you. It's because I was thinking, how have you found a way to a new way of communication? And I think you're already, must be telepathic. You're speaking to it, but I think I can kind of report from my own experience that both ways, that it's probably at the end of the day could be summarized as listening, both ways. Because, I was doing an open mic a couple of weeks ago, and the subject came up. I understand why women would be afraid of men. And I said to whoever I was talking to, what women don't understand is that we're afraid of you.
Yeah. Yes.
So it worked both ways. And what was happening, you got two different brains, two different languages, right? So, but I think what you said earlier, Jason, I mean, I can really relate to this when there's nothing to do but listen.
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything. He wants to do it because he's the man, and she wants to do it because she has the mother tendency. They both do it. It just looks different. And so
true.
I think the root of it is the answer to the question I didn't get to ask because you already answered it, is that you listen, and back to, we call ourselves empaths. Well, an empath isn't, and as far as I know, it isn't someone that knows what you're thinking and da-da-da-da. It's what you're feeling. And so whatever the words are, they used to, you could say they used to get in the way because we're caught up in why is she saying that? Why is he saying that? We're not seeing that inner child that needs to express. So I think, for me, I can speak for myself that, just listening and not all, and that doesn't mean that you're not going to get jolted or triggered or what, but
Sure.
as you consciously stay with that, you can catch the thought. You can sit with the feeling. You can remember the trigger and go, oh, okay, that's why, or whatever it is. But the point is, you're allowing the other to be heard, and there's some type of mutual payoff for me because as I've done that, or maybe it's the chicken and the egg, but as I've done that, I've heard myself, right?
Yeah.
Like getting to know myself again, in a way.
What's coming up for me as I'm hearing this? Something I say. This came to me from wherever it came from, but when I started with a men's circle, because men tend to want to compare, but this isn't just limited to men. So what I'm saying is just what came through.
Right.
We compare as men. My girl's better than your girl. My bank account, my car, my job. We compare to another man. We convert. We want to convert what we think we know. We want to convince. We want to, conquer. We want to compete. All these things. It's like, look, let's leave those things. In this circle, we connect. Okay, let's just connect. Just connect to your heart. Connect to your heart. Connect to your heart. Get out of your mind. Connect to your heart. Listen to your heart. Listen to what another man's heart is. Listen. Connect to the heart. And that's really ultimately what I know gets us through our conflict is connecting and listening and not trying to convince or convert them to your belief, your idea, compassionately connecting. If we could just do that in this time, and that's the work,
Totally is. Along those lines, I realize that there's this place where I can see a lot of people, it's almost like in a spiritual depression. And I can see it in our own pattern a little bit earlier on, and I can see it dissipating. But it's like if you are operating from what you know and the ideas that you've been taught or you've read, or that it's like this or this tradition or anything like that, it almost has an effect of like making you feel more enslaved, because we're kind of out beyond any of that now. Now it's like if you don't come with just an open heart like a child, no matter what's coming up, and allow the moment to keep teaching us and moving us, and Ron always talked about just like slight adjustments here and there, it creates so much suffering so quickly the moment you try and cling to any of it, that it feels like it almost has the knowledge it talks about in the scriptures, like the knowledge puffs us up. It does exactly the opposite of maturing us spiritually. It puts us back in things that are rigid and linear and confined and controlling and all of those things. And maybe that's part, the rise of the feminine aspect of all of us, in those subtle, the child energy in all of us is coming, like we just don't know. Sometimes you don't know, and I don't want to know sometimes.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of that in a lot of ways. Like, wow, I just got blasted for 2 days, and I'm getting downloaded, and I don't even know what it was. And you hear a lot of people talking about it doesn't matter because it's in me now, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then to what you were saying, I was posing another question, but again, you're already going with the answer. Because I think the communication thing is a physical representation of the energetic motion of it all. And that's what we're breaking through. So as I was listening to you again, answer my question that I hadn't even asked you, was going to be along the lines of, were there certain themes that you had to tackle together? But what I'm getting from you, and as I reflect on my own experience as well, is this evolution of listening. The stories, all the words, they're not the primary. The primary is the presence that we have with ourselves and now with our partner. And this is not from the old language that we came out of this codependent communication style. So it's almost like, and you hear this a lot lately too, in the last couple of months, would be, I don't have words for it.
Yes.
It's just, I don't have words for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it often goes, it's just,
I don't know. Words are a very interesting concept at this moment because I've been doing kind of like a lot of rabbit trailing down what common law is and what natural law is in these places that we've been enslaved by words. Words are the trap. The way the words can only point to the experience, they're not the experience themselves. And so we can kind of see it, when we're in our really solid in our witness, how our default words, even the words the quotes that we just keep using and regurgitating, and even though they may be true, it doesn't mean that we've had that experience and the freedom that comes from what those words are trying to point towards. And the space inside is growing to be okay with not knowing, so the experience can come, and that truth sets us free. And now our language is starting to reflect the experience rather than trying to point at an experience we haven't had yet.
Yes, exactly. Got to let it grow.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the lesson. The teacher is the experience. You can tell me whatever you want all day long, and vice versa. But, one thing that I think everybody will agree with is that there's been a lot of dying, a lot of identities dying, and sometimes, and I think, part of taking on a multidimensional perspective, I guess, as we've embodied more and more, is you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. For us, the parts of our relationship that died had to go, and that's not always a comfortable thing. Did you have to let go of I guess identities of your relationship, or characteristics of your relationship, or whatever you want to call it? Was that part of your process, or has that been part of your process?
Yeah, how would you characterize that? I would say the part that's really presently dissolving is the need to get our pain resolved from each other in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
Or any kind of discomfort. It's simultaneously uncomfortable, but you can tell it's the way to freedom.
Right.
And I think that for so long, it's kind of like you guys are, like you said, talking shop all the time, and we're working with these concepts all the time that in itself can become an addiction, and you don't even realize that that's actually the thing that's keeping it in place. And to really cultivate that aloneness is so big. It's like I feel like there's new possibilities of falling in love in a different kind of a way. It's like we're seeing each other. The words come to mind. It's like a brother and sister in Christ kind of an energy. I mean, we're in love. but there's like a deeper aspect where none of those push or pull polarity things that are related to the body and programs of sexuality and all those things, it's like those are being replaced by something truer so that the communion is truer in the body. Does that make sense?
Let me take a stab at it. A quick short one. I think what I'm hearing you say, which is very cool, that the process before involved pain and suffering, but the process that's evolving involves pain, no suffering. Ultimately, it's still going to be a sting to the human.
Yes.
But
Totally.
they're not going to have the context of the stories that made us suffer. So
Yes.
that's another way to say how you're developing this communication. To me, it is.
Yeah.
Beautifully said.
And not being afraid of the pain.
Yes.
And because you know that the more you accept the pain, the suffering is less.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
And that's bottom line. I mean, I just want to, because like there's code here, and I want to like break through the code.
Do you feel like I'm
Do it, man. You
no,
said
no.
that you said that at 55 minutes, 55 seconds. So there's no
That's
mistake.
hilarious. Code, which means big change.
Big change.
We're in a big change,
Yeah.
a big shift. As Todd always says, this shift is real. So here we are, that we're shifting the way, and we talk a lot. Now, every time we've been on this conversation, sexual engagement has always been a conversation. And so it's a part, we're all adults here, and how we engage sexually is being called for a new way of engagement. And that's part of the process. And here we are physically engaged and sleep next to each other every day. And we wake up and we're here in the physical, together, and how we engage physically is changing, working with these energetics. And, it's a powerful process that we're currently in to attune to each other physically, where Heather feels, she feels love from me in a different way.
Wow.
And
That's powerful.
Really,
it's
really powerful.
it's transformational, and it's calling for an irrigation of all of it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And it's painful in certain ways and uncomfortable. I mean, just as simple as non-goal oriented sex. You know what I mean? You're not having sex to have an orgasm.
Right.
You're having communion in a way that is beyond. And we've talked about this with you and Morgan, a lot. And it's just, we're still young, and it's something I'm communicating even to my young 16-year-old son. He's got a girlfriend. It's like we're talking about new ways of engagement so that's in new old ways that's dying. And to go, will I have an orgasm ever? I don't know, but I'm not I'm letting that go.
Right.
It's not about that. It's about, truly connecting to the essence and all bodies, to my beloved. That excites me, and it breaks my heart because, I was a kid, grew up on porn. You know what I mean? I grew up and found my dad's porn at 11 years old, and that's how most guys are being trained on what sex is. And so how do we get this education with children is my question. How do we, because part of our problem is the degrading and the distortion around sexual interaction and communication.
For both men and women. It's
Right.
not just that, that's really important, I think, to realize that, that there's just, we've all had such deep programming around this. And even when we look at our map of who we are from an evolutionary astrology point of view and stuff, these were the codes that we came to clear.
Yeah.
555, there it is.
Sexuality is like at the very core. And I was just going back to one of my gene keys this morning, my core essence and what everything stems from is the energy of conflict is rooted in our human sexuality on the planet. It literally, that's what it is. And so as it gives way to diplomacy, the only way that happens is we are going down into our bodies deeper, but there is the allegiance to soul, to spirit, becomes the only thing that you can give your allegiance to anymore. And so that's where the codependency, I think, is falling away.
Right.
And where we've gotten morsels from each other and used sex unconsciously to make it feel better at times, or to, soothe anything. Taking that away, it was like, one day Spirit literally, and it was very unannounced. I felt like I needed to seal up my body for a little while, and not permanently, but I could just feel I needed to understand what was going on inside of me, just physically,
Right.
so I could hear my body without that engagement, so that the love that we're sharing was like we're sharing it here. It wasn't all enmeshed and tangled. And I think what happened is it brought up all the stuff that we weren't really talking about, that we weren't really dealing with at a really fundamental root level. And it's been uncomfortable, but there's also this place where I'm so respect, because I know that this has been so hard for you to not have that the way that it was, but it's forging new spaces of love, because it's selfless from both of us. It's like we're both loving beyond our comfort zone in ways that feel like completely new territory, and that our commitment has grown so much deeper because it's not about where we've ever been.
Wow. Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you think about it, well, and of course, intimacies, we know that's a very broad, it can be,
Yeah.
walking down the beach, holding hands, and, so on. But I think regardless, I mean, we would think normally, stereotypically, intimacy of two, in their room, in their bedroom, whatever. But the energetics of it, because you're right, this is where the root is of the distortion. I mean, because the last polarities are going to be, or is, the masculine feminine.
Yeah.
So if this is happening, and I can tell you, this has been our path. I mean, she brought that information in, like you were coded, and I guess I was coded, the 55-55. This is not a joke, because it just happened. But what I'm saying is, you're doing the work, and it is personal, but it is very collective.
Yes.
Totally. Yes.
This is think about the energetics of one power couple finding this space, and there's no finish line, and there's no right or wrong. It's an evolution, which our living library experience is the wild card. So
Yes.
but the power of that, and of course we're not physically together at this time, obviously, but we have our moments, and we're not talking cyber, we're not talking, and it's not, every week. It comes when it comes, and it's I would say in the last couple of 2-3 months, I want to say going back to when was the equinox? September? But yeah, whatever it is, there's been some really powerful connections, like beyond even, like, it's just like, what the hell's going on here? But I've noticed, for me anyway, they've been like huge downloads. And there could be a kind of a tension afterwards. I noticed that a couple times. And I think, again, that's just the mechanics, not judging it, but that whole cycle of tension coming together, or contraction, expansion, however you want to call it. But yeah, I would say that, just to wrap that up, that the Helios Gamos, sacred sexuality, sacred union, whatever you want to call it, as frequencies or bands of frequencies or templates or new templates, definitely taking root. But again, just to give respect where respect is due, it takes a lot of work, and this is a really a great gift to witness the two of you. It's almost like you're talking to each other, and you're letting us in.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that.
You're welcome. You called it forth, brother. I mean, we
always.
our goal is to, I mean, you've been such a voice in our heart, for so long.
Yeah.
The human is the hero. As one goes, so goes the collective. Yeah. These things are etched in my heart, Todd, and to have these raw, real conversations is every time, like, we come out, we just, we want to take the masks off and just go, look, This is the real and raw real. And thank you for acknowledging, because this is the great work. And we know that we can't go into, we have no idea how it's affecting the collective.
Mm-hmm.
But all we know is to do is like, look, when Heather and I came together, we knew God brought us together, you know, and it was to do something beyond our personal self.
Yeah.
We knew that there was something that was calling this forth, this relationship. And we didn't know, and we still don't know where it goes, and there is no attachment to the outcome. But we know having a ministry called the Powers of Love is going to call everything that's unlike that to its forefront, to be cleared, healed, and transformed, transfigured. And that's we signed up as souls. It said, look, we'll do this work for the collective. And this is our peace on earth. You know, there's something on our website I feel guided to read. And one of our favorite books is Evolutionary Relationships by Andrew Harvey and Chris Sonnet. And they say it's critical to remember that the crisis we're facing, and we're facing a crisis on the planet, right? I think we're all in agreement. There's some kind of crisis that we're in, a crisis of faith, a crisis of love. But we're facing a crisis in which the sacred powers of love in the human soul are being diverted by distraction, by greed, by ignorance, by the pursuit of power, so that it can never irrigate the world and transform it.
Yes.
What is needed is a vision of evolutionary relationship as a relationship that helps us come into the real, take responsibility for it, and enact our sacred purpose with a partner for the world. When two lovers come together in this dynamic love consciousness, they create a transformative field of sacred energy from which both can feed to inspire their work in reality. And that feels like it sums up what those couples, those relationships like yourself and Morgan are doing in the world. Like to go, look, you may not be glamorous all the time, but what the world needs is to see. We need to see the real. Yeah. People taking responsibility for the real, not bypassing and being superpowers. You know, we're not the superpowers, the super angels of love. Like we're humans, man.
Yeah, just so you know.
Oh. that was so classic.
Oh my god! You know, one thing
that was just perfect.
Thank you, brother.
I went from tears of reverence to tears of laughter. No, that was good. Yeah, because I think there is that misconception.
Yeah.
You know, and I get from more than one person. Wow, look at them, you know. I know this, let's say one couple. I've had 4 or 5 people tell me, look at them, they're doing it right. You know, whatever. And I'm going, you know, nobody gets out alive.
No.
I don't think there's, I think there's you could say there's a group of us or whatever at any given time. Just because you were a first waver 22 years ago doesn't mean you're one today. You know, I mean, there's just,
right.
Like you said, it's always a moving target. But, it's being worked out. The code is being written. We are the good book. And I think, again, there's several templates, I would say. I'm not saying I'm an expert, but, different roles, different ways. But I think at the core of it is obviously the alchemical marriage. And I mean, I know people and I respect them very much, that their consort is not physical. And I see it. We just happen to be, I guess you could say, like the grunts, the boots on the ground, right? Like the Marines, right? And we have it all. We have the whole physical, corporal, part of it, and although that seems like the place that carries the most burden, it's actually the most powerful place to be. But just to kind of conclude that with what y'all have always represented, and it's the human that makes the choice. It's like you said earlier about, hopefully they're not running, or, that could be, used in a lot of different ways. Running from a job, running from responsibility, running from a relationship, still all the same rhythm and pattern, but the human is on point. And you would think, oh, wow, I got a fancy uniform with medals and I'm the, leading the way here of my multidimensional team, but it's work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. I feel, we were at a gathering the night before last of some really pretty high-powered people in terms of the freedom movement and some pretty high-profile folks. And we were really blessed to be able to be there. And I think one of the things that I walked away with that night was it's interesting how Spirit moves us all into the posts that we're supposed to be in and is preparing us to be in those places, because a lot of times, like when I think of what's going on in the world and these people that are at the forefront of leading any kind of freedom movement, just pray for their integrity, pray that it's like that their inner self is aligned with their actions and the message that they're talking about. And I think that's the work that we're doing, is that where we would be moved into positions that we're ready to handle,
Right.
because we've been tested, because we've been in the fires, because we know that the power of our own humanness when we are tempted, or whatever those things are, that's what the world is hungry for. We don't need more superheroes that we find out later have a whole bunch of other things going on. And God bless, anybody that's in that position. It's not easy. Positions of leadership and visibility they require a lot. To whom much is given, much is required. And
Right.
I think this is the gift of the fires that we walk through, and that trusting that we will not be anywhere we're not ready to be.
Yeah.
Well said, though.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is, both of you, and what you are, are evolving. Well, it's all an evolution, right? ING on every word. But is transparency. We talked about raw and real and authenticity, but it's really just transparency. It's like we're, on a train headed for a light at the end of the tunnel. That's where we're going.
Yes.
Again, I think a lot can be said for those that walk the earth today, because the impact of this transformation on the body, which, on one hand is the most, fragile part, right? Because, how many layers of the other body die off? And you know what I mean? But at the same time, this body is becoming the universal vehicle. And so on one hand, I think many of us have reached a level of alchemical marriage, or we wouldn't be having these experiences with other people, not necessarily have to be romantic, but where two or more gather. And it's starting to externalize, you know what I mean? So I think we've done a lot more than we probably thought we have.
Yeah, that's a good point. I along the line of transparency, I think of Yeshua saying you have to come like a little child, and that really is what a little child is.
Yeah.
They don't know how not to be transparent.
Speak direct, no filter. This is what we're getting to, right? It's like it's like pure telepathy,
Totally.
but we're transitioning through continuing to verbalize it, and maybe that lessons and lessons. Do you find that your communication or conversations is easy? I'm not saying all the time, because we know there's a whole gamut still working out. But do you find it more different than it has been if you're going through all that you've gone through since last year, when you almost checked out, and then your car accident? Or is it more relaxed? Is it more humorous? Is it is it the same, or has there been a change?
I would say, it's, like you said, there's ebbs and flows, but I think to step back, and I appreciate you asking the question, because it's forcing me to look, I think it's more tempered.
Definitely.
We've been given tools this year, as we shared, Jason Gaddis wrote a book called Getting to Zero, and it's really how you work through conflict. And one of the things that we've said and that we take away and we share with our clients is LUFU. Listen until the person feels understood.
Not until you think you understand.
Not until you think you understand, but listen until they feel understood. Listen until they feel you understand what they're saying. You know, so we feel like we've been given some really powerful tools this year because our peace is the most important. Our peace is the most sacred gift that we can protect. And, you know, we're aware of the patterns and behaviors and ways that listening until the other person feels understood is you know, so that's our North Star. And so I feel like it's tempered, you know, to go back to what we were saying, with deeper listening.
Yeah.
And
Compassion.
what a time we need that in the planet, and to go look, you know, this person, you know, on the other side of the political, religion, gender, whatever it is, listen until that person feels understood by you. We were at a, you know, a school board vote, and Heather had this amazing, it was about, you know, the stuff going on and reading, you know, transgendered material to school kids in the classrooms, and like, they're not ready for this stuff, the over-sexualizing and going. And so we were called to just be presence there, because there was going to possibly be Antifa people, and just be the presence of love, not to conflict, not to cause a problem, but just to be there. And Heather ended up engaging in a conversation with one of those protesters. It's like, you know, you don't hate us, don't, you know. And she did such a great job by engaging with this young woman, because she felt understood.
Wow.
And so here we are. It was so powerful to witness, because I was like, oh, babe, don't get into conflict. Don't bring me into something. You know, but
I'm going in.
She's so brave, and you know, I just honor you, beloved, and you know, I've learned so much about grace, about wisdom, about the Sophia, and just bowing and bending my knee to that, and just to be a witness to how you engage. And that's just a microcosm of who she is. But you know, this is kind of where we're learning to honor each other's essence a little more, listen a little deeper,
beyond the discomfort,
you know, and be honest with the discomfort. You know, I'm feeling this, but it's not to bury your feelings or bury your thoughts, but to just listen until they feel understood. So yeah, I think that answers your question. You want to tag on that?
Yeah. I would say just being comfortable with all of it. Like, you know, when you become, and again, that's cultivated by our own listening to our own presence inside. If you're not listening to yourself, there's absolutely no way that you can listen really for your partner without having some agenda behind it. And maybe becoming aware where that still runs in any way, you know, where the subtle layers of control still through some filter.
The subtleties.
Wow, yeah, that far back there is really deep in there. But yeah, just the defense is falling. It's all like, come like a little child. See the little child in each other. Take off our armor or our superhero. We always like to say Captain Underpants.
We don't like to say that. When I'm wearing Captain Underpants, she calls me Captain Underpants, like, and I need to stop being Superman and just see that
Captain
Underpants.
Oh, Jason and his tidy whities now.
Baby, no.
Well, and to me again, like, and I, you know, again, we've obviously not spoken, and so to speak, you know, without her here, I think is, you know, something to be careful about. Not because I'm afraid of anything, but just out of respect. But in general terms, one of the things that we have been doing that we hadn't done before is connecting, like in communion, and both channeling, like back and forth. And I remember a couple of times back, you know, getting the understanding, and it doesn't matter what the polarities are, because if you look at the basics of the communication, which we've kind of said, hey, this is really the pattern that the whole thing operates at, you know, from here out, is that whatever the issue is, there's a polarity. Let's say she represents one side, he represents the other. You know, an argument, or whatever it could be. You know, it could be so many different things, masculine, feminine. So the download was, he needs to own his feminine.
Mm-hmm.
And she needs to own her masculine.
Yep.
And he needs to respect her masculine, and she needs to respect his feminine. Now, when it came in a little bit different. And I'd rather speak with Morgan before I would repeat that. It's nothing bad. But my point is that we know we're one. Yeah. We're on opposite sides, so we're carrying not only polarity, which is healthy, we're carrying the duality. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, we would be spinning in the Merkabah, and the Trinity energy would be blowing the doors open.
Yeah.
So, I think that's that. It's kind of like what I was talking about earlier when because I was in sales for many, many years. And Sales 101 is, the best salesman's the best listener, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
But,
ask the best questions.
Right. But the thing is that you can't ask the questions, all right? You can't unless you're listening. And when you have that type of atmosphere, you have an incentive to listen because you're going to get paid, right? Now we're dealing with the Mars Venus and the war of the sexes and as an energetic, we're on the front lines. This is really the front lines. Mm-hmm. And but that listening part, when I was telling you, the more I listened, it was weird. The more I could hear myself. Right? So I don't know what happened, the chicken or the egg here, but I started to go, wow, I didn't know that about me, or I didn't know I did that, or and it was like the kind of epiphanies you get when you're alone in solitude. Mm-hmm. And maybe if in retrospect I think about it, a lot of times it would occur after a conversation. Mm-hmm. When the light went off and it's like, she's not griping, she's actually telling me how she feels. Right, and I'm sure it works both ways, So it's ha ha ha, Captain in Underpants. You're never going to live that one down.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are absolutely amazing and so real, and I think it speaks to probably all of us. I mean, we get so caught up in what they're doing or he's doing or she's doing that I can't do, and that's that competition you're talking about, and that was the feminine, Heather, you were talking about, that's coming out and superseding all of that, which I think is the compassion that is at the root of the conversations and the relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Todd.
We love you
Every
so
time
much.
we come together with you, it's always, it's enriching, engaging, and
Feels like medicine. It feels like total medicine.
You just said that at 1 hour, 22 minutes, 22 seconds. Yeah, it is. It's mutual. Yeah. It's mutual. Yeah. So, it's not, and I talk about this sometimes, I know that I have to show up. I know I have to show up no matter how I feel. And for the most part, I do. I got a pretty strong high percentile there. But there's something happening with the show, like I said, in the last few weeks. And I feel like people are showing up with me, and that's a powerful thing, and that's what y'all have done today. So I just
all love to you, to Morgan, and to everybody that's been with us this time, and who will be with us in another now.
All right.
Just support Todd and Soulogy and all that he's doing in this world, because he's opening up portals of conversation and communion that. Is really powerful. So bless you, brother.
Yeah,
bless you both. Can't wait to see you in the flesh again. I'm sure it's going to happen.
I know.
Yeah,
we look forward to that. Love you guys.
Love